For millions of television viewers, The Andy Griffith Show represented the ideal American small town, where neighbors trusted one another, families shared simple values, and life moved at a gentle pace. Week after week, audiences escaped into the peaceful world of Mayberry, believing that the warmth seen on screen reflected the relationships behind the cameras as well. Yet, like many classic television productions, the reality was more complicated than the image presented to viewers. While the cast created unforgettable memories together, personalities occasionally clashed, professional disagreements surfaced, and not every friendship was as effortless as fans imagined. Even so, the show's remarkable success would leave an enduring legacy that continues to influence television generations later. The series premiered on CBS in October 1960 and remained on the air until 1968, producing 8 successful seasons and nearly 250 episodes. Set in the fictional town of Mayberry, North Carolina, the story followed Sheriff Andy Taylor, a thoughtful and compassionate lawman raising his young son, Opie, with the help of Aunt Bee. Unlike many sitcoms of its era, the show relied less on outrageous comedy and more on heartfelt storytelling, gentle humor, and memorable characters. That unique formula resonated with audiences across America, turning Mayberry into one of television's most beloved fictional communities. At the center of the series was young Ron Howard, who portrayed Opie Taylor from childhood through his early teenage years. Long before becoming one of Hollywood's most respected filmmakers, Howard was already demonstrating professionalism that impressed veteran actors around him. Born into a family deeply connected to the entertainment industry, he was introduced to acting at a very young age. His parents encouraged him to develop his talent while ensuring he received an education alongside his growing career. Working on television sets became part of his childhood, giving him valuable experience that few children his age could imagine. Before joining The Andy Griffith Show, Howard had already appeared in several television programs and films, steadily building his resume as a child performer. However, nothing compared to the opportunity of playing Opie Taylor. The role transformed him into one of America's favorite child actors almost overnight. His natural chemistry with Andy Griffith helped create one of television's most convincing father and son relationships, making audiences believe they were watching a genuine family rather than performers reading scripts. Andy Griffith himself played a major role in creating the relaxed atmosphere that allowed Howard to grow as an actor. Rather than treating him simply as a child performer, Griffith often encouraged him to feel comfortable on set, offering guidance without unnecessary pressure. Howard would later recall how calm and welcoming those early filming days felt, memories that stayed with him long after the series ended. That supportive environment helped him develop confidence, both in front of and eventually behind the camera. Another key figure in the show's success was Don Knotts, whose unforgettable performance as Deputy Barney Fife became one of television's greatest comedic achievements. Barney's nervous personality, exaggerated confidence, and endless mishaps provided many of the series' funniest moments. Knotts' remarkable comic timing earned widespread praise and multiple Emmy Awards, making Barney one of the most recognizable television characters of the 1960s. His friendship and creative partnership with Andy Griffith contributed greatly to the show's popularity, even after Knotts eventually departed as a regular cast member. Equally important was actress Frances Bavier, who portrayed Aunt Bee with warmth, kindness, and quiet strength. On screen, she represented stability within the Taylor household, preparing meals, offering advice, and caring deeply for both Andy and Opie. Her performance became an essential part of the series' emotional appeal. Although reports over the years suggested that some working relationships among cast members were occasionally strained, viewers never saw those professional differences reflected in the finished episodes. As with many long-running television productions, maintaining harmony among a large cast was not always easy. Different personalities, demanding production schedules, and varying creative opinions sometimes led to disagreements. Over time, stories emerged describing occasional tensions behind the scenes, reminding fans that even the most cheerful television families consisted of real people facing ordinary workplace challenges. Nevertheless, those moments never overshadowed the professionalism that allowed the cast to consistently deliver high-quality performances season after season. The achievements of the Andy Griffith Show remain extraordinary even decades after its original broadcast. The series regularly ranked among America's most-watched television programs and accomplished the rare distinction of ending its final season as the #1 show in the Nielsen ratings. Few television comedies have achieved such consistent popularity throughout their entire run. Although Andy Griffith himself never received an Emmy Award for his leading performance during the series, several cast members earned prestigious recognition for their outstanding work. When the show concluded in 1968, Ron Howard faced an important decision about his future. Rather than remaining identified solely as Opie Taylor, he continued expanding his acting career. Several years later, he found another iconic role as Richie Cunningham on the hit sitcom Happy Days. Once again, audiences embraced his wholesome, relatable personality, proving that his success had not been limited to childhood acting. Yet Howard's greatest ambitions extended beyond performing in front of the camera. Even while acting on Happy Days, Howard developed a growing fascination with directing films. He carefully observed experienced filmmakers, studied production techniques, and gradually prepared himself for a completely new chapter in his career. His directorial debut came with a low-budget comedy Grand Theft Auto in 1977, an opportunity made possible through a creative arrangement with producer Roger Corman. Although modest in scale, the project demonstrated Howard's determination to establish himself as more than a successful actor. That decision ultimately reshaped his entire career. Over the following decades, Howard directed acclaimed films including Apollo 13, A Beautiful Mind, Cinderella Man, and Frost/Nixon. His thoughtful storytelling, attention to character, and ability to balance emotion with spectacle earned him widespread respect throughout Hollywood. The young boy once known simply as Opie Taylor became one of the entertainment industry's most accomplished directors. Today, The Andy Griffith Show continues to attract new generations through reruns and streaming platforms. Its gentle humor, timeless values, and memorable performances remain as appealing now as they were during the 1960s. While historians and fans continue discussing the real relationships behind the scenes, the enduring legacy of the series rests on the remarkable talent of the people who brought Mayberry to life. Ron Howard's journey from child actor to Academy Award-winning filmmaker stands as one of Hollywood's most inspiring success stories, proving that the lessons learned in a fictional small town helped prepare him for an extraordinary career that would extend far beyond the streets of Mayberry. When most people think of Ron Howard, they picture the friendly, red-haired boy who seemed destined to become one of television's most recognizable faces. But what many don't realize is that acting was only the first chapter of a remarkable career. Long before he won Academy Awards and directed some of Hollywood's biggest films, Howard was quietly preparing for a future behind the camera. His journey from beloved child actor to acclaimed filmmaker wasn't built on luck alone. It was the result of determination, patience, and an unwavering passion for storytelling that began long before audiences ever realized it. By the mid-1970s, Ron Howard had already become a household name through his role as Richie Cunningham on the hit television series Happy Days. Richie was the wholesome, dependable teenager whose kindness and sincerity made him the perfect contrast to the show's breakout character, Arthur Fonzie Fonzarelli. Played by Henry Winkler, Fonzie brought confidence, charisma, and coolness to every scene, while Howard's Richie grounded the series with warmth and heart. Their different personalities created a chemistry that audiences instantly embraced, helping transform Happy Days into one of the defining television sitcoms of its era. The friendship between Howard and Winkler extended far beyond the television screen. Cast and crew members frequently described the atmosphere on set as supportive and collaborative. Rather than competing for attention, the two actors respected one another's talents and worked together to strengthen every episode. Their genuine friendship contributed to the authenticity viewers saw on screen, and together they helped make Happy Days an enduring part of American popular culture. Despite the enormous success of the series, Ron Howard had begun thinking beyond acting. While millions of viewers knew him as Richie Cunningham, Howard spent his free time studying filmmaking. he watched directors at work, observed how scenes were planned, and became fascinated by the creative decisions that shaped every production. Instead of simply memorizing lines and performing in front of the camera, he wanted to understand how stories were built from the ground up. Howard realized that directing would allow him to tell stories in a much broader way. Rather than bringing one character to life, he could guide an entire production, shaping performances, visual style, pacing, and emotion. This ambition remained largely unknown to the public, but those closest to him recognized that his interests were steadily shifting toward filmmaking. An opportunity finally arrived through legendary independent producer Roger Corman, who had developed a reputation for discovering young talent. Corman often gave first-time filmmakers a chance when larger studios would not. Howard accepted a starring role in the action comedy Eat My Dust, an arrangement that came with an unusual reward. In exchange for appearing in the film, Corman agreed to let Howard direct his own feature. That opportunity became the 1977 comedy Grand Theft Auto. Working with a limited budget meant Howard had to rely on creativity instead of expensive production techniques. Every decision required careful planning, and every challenge became a valuable lesson. Rather than being discouraged by financial limitations, Howard embraced them, proving that strong storytelling could overcome limited resources. Although Grand Theft Auto was produced on a modest scale, it represented something much greater than a single film. It marked the beginning of Ron Howard's second career. For the first time, he was no longer simply following a director's vision. He was creating one of his own. Following his first feature film, Howard continued building his skills through television. During the late 1970s and early 1980s, he directed several television movies, each one giving him additional experience with actors, production schedules, and visual storytelling. These projects may not have attracted the same attention as major theatrical releases, but they allowed Howard to refine his craft without the intense pressure that often accompanies blockbuster filmmaking. One important project during this period was Skyward, a television film released in 1980. Working with respected performers and experienced production crews expanded Howard's confidence as a director. Every project strengthened his understanding of how to balance emotional storytelling with technical precision. Hollywood soon began noticing that the former child actor possessed genuine filmmaking talent. He wasn't directing simply because he had been famous as an actor. He had earned the respect of colleagues through preparation, professionalism, and an eagerness to learn. Howard's breakthrough as a feature director arrived in 1982 with a comedy Night Shift. The film starred Henry Winkler alongside the rapidly rising Michael Keaton, whose energetic performance introduced audiences to a unique comedic style. Shelley Long also delivered a memorable performance that helped complete the film's dynamic cast. Night Shift received positive reviews and demonstrated that Howard could successfully handle both comedy and character-driven storytelling. Critics praised the film's energy, while audiences appreciated its humor and originality. More importantly, the project established Howard as a director capable of leading talented actors and bringing out memorable performances. Success continued only 2 years later with the release of Splash in 1984. Blending romance, comedy, and fantasy, the film told the unusual story of a man who falls in love with a mysterious woman who is secretly a mermaid. Starring Tom Hanks and Daryl Hannah, with supporting performances from John Candy and Eugene Levy, the film delighted audiences around the world. Splash became both a commercial and critical success. It proved that Howard could direct large-scale studio productions while maintaining emotional warmth and humor. The film also played a significant role in establishing Tom Hanks as one of Hollywood's leading actors. By this stage of his career, Ron Howard had accomplished something remarkably rare. Many child actors struggle to find lasting success as adults, often becoming permanently associated with the roles that made them famous. Howard, however, refused to be defined by his childhood accomplishments. Instead of trying to relive earlier success, he reinvented himself through hard work and constant learning. The qualities that had made him successful as an actor, discipline, curiosity, humility, and professionalism, became even more valuable once he stepped behind the camera. Fellow actors appreciated his calm leadership, because he understood the pressures performers faced. Crew members respected his preparation, while producers recognized his ability to complete ambitious projects efficiently. Looking back, it's remarkable to see how naturally Howard's career evolved. The little boy who first captivated audiences on television gradually transformed into one of Hollywood's most respected filmmakers. Every experience, from childhood acting to sitcom stardom and independent filmmaking, became another step toward mastering the art of directing. Yet while Ron Howard's professional life appeared to be reaching new heights, another story from his earlier years continued to fascinate television historians. Long before he became one of Hollywood's most celebrated directors, Howard had spent much of his childhood on the set of The Andy Griffith Show. To millions of viewers, Mayberry represented kindness, community, and timeless family values. But behind the comforting image presented on television, relationships among some cast members were far more complicated than audiences ever imagined. Those behind-the-scenes tensions would become one of the most discussed chapters in the show's enduring legacy. For millions of television viewers, The Andy Griffith Show represented the ideal American hometown. Week after week, audiences returned to the quiet streets of Mayberry, where neighbors looked after one another, problems were solved with kindness instead of conflict, and family always came first. The series created a comforting world that seemed untouched by the pressures of modern life. At the heart of that world were Sheriff Andy Taylor, his young son Opie, and his dependable Aunt Bee, whose warmth and wisdom helped make the Taylor home feel welcoming to generations of viewers. On screen, the cast appeared to function like one big family. Off-screen, however, the reality was often far more complicated. One of the most discussed relationships behind the scenes involved Andy Griffith and actress Frances Bavier, who portrayed Aunt Bee. Their performances together were so convincing that many fans assumed they shared the same close bond in real life. Yet over the years, stories began circulating that suggested their personal relationship was much more distant than the loving connection audiences saw each week. Although many details have been debated by television historians, it is clear that Griffith and Bavier had very different personalities, and those differences occasionally created tension during the production of the series. Andy Griffith was widely known as an outgoing and approachable person. He enjoyed spending time with fellow cast members, joking between takes, and creating a relaxed atmosphere on set. His leadership style was informal, and many of the younger actors remembered him as someone who encouraged teamwork and made everyone feel included. Ron Howard, who grew up on the show while playing young Opie Taylor, has often spoken about Griffith's kindness and generosity, describing him as an important mentor during his childhood years in television. While Ron Howard's personal life earned admiration for its stability, his professional career became equally remarkable. Few people have achieved lasting success, both in front of the camera and behind it. Beginning as the lovable Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show before becoming Richie Cunningham on Happy Days, Ron became one of America's most recognizable young television stars. Yet even during his acting career, he remained fascinated by filmmaking itself. He carefully observed directors, camera work, and storytelling techniques, preparing for a future that extended far beyond acting. In 1977, Howard directed his first feature film, Grand Theft Auto, a low-budget comedy that showcased his enthusiasm for directing. Although the film had no connection to the later video game franchise with the same name, it marked the beginning of a career that would eventually earn worldwide respect. Throughout the 1980s, Howard continued developing his craft with successful films such as Splash and Willow. While these movies demonstrated his versatility, many critics still questioned whether he could become one of Hollywood's elite directors. Those doubts gradually disappeared as Howard continued refining his storytelling abilities. His breakthrough as an award-winning filmmaker arrived with A Beautiful Mind in 2001. Based on the life of Nobel Prize-winning mathematician John Nash, the film explored genius, schizophrenia, perseverance, and love. Featuring acclaimed performances from Russell Crowe, Jennifer Connelly, Ed Harris, and Christopher Plummer, the movie received widespread critical praise. At the Academy Awards, A Beautiful Mind won Best Picture, while Ron Howard received the Oscar for Best Director, cementing his place among the industry's most accomplished filmmakers. Despite its success, The film also generated discussion because some aspects of John Nash's personal life were omitted from the screenplay. Howard explained that every adaptation requires creative decisions about what to include and what to leave out in order to maintain a focused narrative. Although some critics questioned those choices, Howard emphasized that his goal was to tell an emotionally compelling story rather than document every detail of Nash's life. He later expressed concern whenever criticism shifted away from artistic debate and became personally hurtful toward the real individuals connected to the story. In recent years, Howard has also spoken openly about adapting Hillbilly Elegy, based on the memoir by J.D. Vance. When Howard began working on the project, Vance was known primarily as an author rather than a political figure. Howard has since acknowledged that Vance's later political career and public positions differ significantly from the person he originally collaborated with through the memoir. While Howard has expressed disappointment regarding some of those developments, he has consistently emphasized respectful discussion over personal attacks. Throughout his decades-long career, Ron Howard has maintained a reputation for professionalism, thoughtful storytelling, and a calm approach to both filmmaking and public life. His enduring marriage, remarkable career, and dedication to meaningful stories continue to define a legacy built on patience, integrity, and lasting achievement. Ron Howard's reflections in recent years have focused less on celebrity and more on the importance of character, honesty, and personal responsibility. Looking back on his long career, he has acknowledged that some of the most difficult lessons came not from filmmaking, but from the people he encountered along the way. He has often suggested that appearances can be misleading and that a friendly smile, a polished public image, or even a successful career does not always reveal a person's true nature. Life has taught him that individuals can change over time, sometimes in ways that are surprising and disappointing. Those experiences have reinforced his belief that trust should be earned through consistent actions rather than carefully crafted reputations. Instead of allowing those disappointments to make him cynical, Howard chose to grow from them, using each experience as another lesson in understanding human nature.